I'm worried to own any one of those guys because it's like you almost never know who they're going to get the ball to in the red zone. And most of the time, if they are in the red zone, they're just going to lob it up to Odell. So I'm completely staying away from the Giants running back. I think it's a huge risk to start any one of those guys. In all honesty, you're really gambling, in my opinion, if you decide to go with any one of those three. And if you do decide to go with any one of those three, I definitely have to question your faithfulness to the Giants. You have to be a fan because I don't see starting any one of those guys, especially for daily fantasy. Obviously the Giants are going to aim at their passing attack. They have too many weapons, especially tight end with Larry Donnell and his name's slipping me, but the other tight end they have, there's just too many weapons to fall in the air. So I'm staying away from that running game as far as the Giants go.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I think the only one that you might potentially think about would be Shane Vereen in a PPR league, maybe. Because if they are passing a lot, there'll be a lot of checkdowns.
True.
But yeah, even him, he hasn't really done so much yet. Granted, he was injured for a lot of the preseason, so maybe once he gets his legs under him, he might actually be decent. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm not owning any Giants running backs. Looking over to the Bills side of things, we got Tyrod Taylor. Coming out of pretty much nowhere. He wasn't even expected to be the starter on this team, and now he's had 3 straight, good games. You think he is? You think he should be owned in 100% of leagues, and do you think he should be starting in some leagues?
He's definitely having a great season. Personally, I'm still not sold on him. I know it's tough to say. I have to see his price tag. I'm not really sure what his price tag is this week, and I haven't even really looked at him. But he's having a great season, especially now if McCoy's a little banged up. Carlos Williams will definitely take that role, and that's another thing we'll get to too. Williams scored a touchdown in each game this season, but it's hard for me to be sold on him yet. I know he's having a good season and hitting up Clay the tight end. They've been having some pretty good chemistry together too. But I guess it would all come down to his price tag, because if his price tag gets a little ridiculous for daily fantasy, there's just too many other quarterbacks out there that I would start over him. But hey, if he can prove this another couple weeks, then I might have to jump on the Tyrod Taylor bandwagon there. But right now, I'm still not sold on him. I probably won't have him starting, probably not in any of my leagues, to be honest. But if his price tag is right, then we'll look at him. But I can't see his price tag getting any lower, obviously, the way he's been playing. So just got to keep an eye on that. And if it all works out, then, maybe I'll end up grabbing him. But right now, I'm kind of staying away from him.
Yeah, I think in daily, I think I'm probably staying away from him as well right now. I think in season-long leagues, I do think he needs to be owned and potentially starting. When you got injuries to Big Ben, you got injuries to Tony Romo, Drew Brees didn't play this last week. I think with all those injuries, I think Tyrod Taylor really probably becomes a top 10, if not, better play each week. He gets the Giants this week that, have had struggles stopping anybody. So I really think that Tyrod Taylor, the worst case scenario, he's got a very high floor because of the rushing. I think, his passing maybe, will come back down to earth. But I think you're going to get some rushing yards each week from him, so I think his floor is definitely lower than some quarterbacks. And like I said, if you're a Tony Romo owner or Ben Roethlisberger owner or Drew Brees owner for that matter, or even if God forbid you're a Kaepernick owner, Tyrod Taylor is definitely someone you'd want to look at. I'm not sure how available he is in leagues anymore after his first 3 weeks, but if he's on your waiver wires, I would definitely give him an ad. Now you had mentioned Carlos Williams. Of course, McCoy's been injured pretty much since the preseason. I was extremely high on LaShawn McCoy going into the season before the injury. I actually had him in my preseason ranks as the number 5 overall player, not just number 5 running back, but the number 5 overall player. Of course, injuries have kind of derailed that whole thing. But then we have Carlos Williams, who just stepped in, and like you mentioned, 3 games now with the rushing touchdown. Of course, he had 12 carries and a touchdown, 105 yards, I believe, and a touchdown this past weekend. You think if McCoy's back healthy, do you think this becomes a timeshare, or do you think McCoy, because of the huge contract, that the Bills just have to start him and play him the bulk of the carries just because he's getting paid so much.
The thing about the NFL is all it takes is one little injury for a star running back to get benched and then come back 3 weeks later wondering if he's ever going to start again. We've seen it multiple times. And I look at when Drew Brees got hurt and this little kid named Tom Brady came in, and it's one of those situations. It's my opinion. In my opinion, especially with the running back position, the Redskins are going through it right now. I know we'll get to that later. Nothing's guaranteed or set in stone as a running back in the NFL anymore. If Carlos Williams is going to continue to produce, then McCoy better be asking himself, am I about to lose my starting job, or is this about to be a committee? Because I know McCoy coming over there, I don't think he was thinking it was going to be a committee, but in today's day and age with the NFL, especially with the running back committees, that populates the NFL, it's hard to say. Obviously, if Rex Ryan sees Carlos benefiting and helping out his offense, I highly doubt he's just going to stop that and just bench him as soon as McCoy comes back. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Carlos Williams, and for you daily fantasy sports players, that might be something worth looking at.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. And you said Drew Brees, but everyone knows you meant Drew Bledsoe as far as...
Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm definitely with you with that. And if you look at Rex Ryan's history with running backs, granted, he's never had one that was as good as McCoy, but they've almost always been sort of a committee. He's always had, he had the Chris Ivory and the Chris Johnson years, and so I think, he's not opposed to going to the committee approach, which I think if you're a McCoy owner, you're definitely worried about, but if you're a Carlos Williams owner, you're definitely excited about. I think he's going to be one of the hottest waiver wire pickups this week, if he's not already picked up in your league after his first 2 games. But yeah, I definitely agree that Carlos Williams has definitely shown enough that I think he needs to be owned in all leagues.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to the next game here, we have the surprising, at least for me, Carolina Panthers at the not-so-surprising Buccaneers. So looking at the Panther side of the ball, I definitely didn't pick them to be as good as they were earlier in the season. But looking at it from a fantasy perspective, is there any wide receivers in this that you would be comfortable starting in the near future? Anybody going to emerge from this receiving core here?
I mean, for daily, if you can get some value out of Ted Ginn Jr., I would consider it. But outside of that, absolutely not. Greg Olson's a ball hog. Obviously, it's Cam's favorite target. I mean, Olsen caught 2 touchdowns, 8 passes for 134 yards. He's hogging the value. Especially, obviously we're not going to see any Kelvin Benjamin this year either. So he's on the IR. Honestly, no. I'm not sold on any other wide receivers, to be honest. Cam consistently goes to Greg. That's just all there is to it. That offense just relies on their tight end, and Cam's going to continue to throw the ball to him. So I wouldn't really get my hopes up because I think that, that offense has pretty much found themselves. I don't think anything's going to change with that offense. The way they're playing right now, it's just insane. Panthers are looking really, really good. So I'm not really sold on anyone on that offense. Maybe, like I said, maybe Ted Ginn Jr., but that's about it.
Yeah, I'm with you on not being sold. I would say that there's one guy on the team that I would maybe stash on your bench in the season-long leagues, and that's Devin Funchess. Of course, he hasn't done much. He was the one that was going to be the heir apparent to Benjamin when he went down, but then, of course, he got injured himself. Has yet to see the field too much. I mean, he's gotten in the last couple games, but nothing to really write home about. But I think if you have room on your bench, I would stash Devin Funchess, and hopefully that he can emerge. People forget that Odell Beckham Jr. last year also started the season injured. I believe he came back in week 4 or 5, and we all know what he did. So I'm not predicting that Devin Funchess is going to be that good, but he can be definitely viable going forward if you've got room to stash him on your bench. And then we got Cam Newton, who going into the season, I think I had him outside of my top 10, and that was even before the Kelvin Benjamin injury, just because of the way he played last year. It wasn't really that fantasy worthy. But looking at him from this year, even without Benjamin, I mean, he's suddenly become the Cam Newton that we remembered from his first couple seasons, where he's running the ball like a running back. He's getting more goal line carries than his running back is. I mean, is Cam back to being Cam? Can we trust this?
Absolutely. I can tell you right now, Cam Newton's going to be in a ton of my lineup for this weekend. Cam is in stride. He's in rhythm. You already know he's going to rush for 1 or 2 touchdowns, if not throw. With Greg Olsen, one of the best tight ends, to his disposal. I mean, honestly, if I'm a daily fantasy sports player, I'm starting Cam in a lot of my leagues. I think they're going to have a field day against the Bucs. They're 3-0. They're in rhythm. This is going to be the one weekend their offense is just going to explode. I could see a 4-0 Panthers after this weekend. I could see a lot of happy fantasy owners for those who decide to start Cam.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And you look at that division, I mean, who's really going to stop him? You got the Bucs, whose defense is, horrible. You got the Saints, whose defense is horrible. You got the Falcons, whose defense is horrible. I mean, he's going to play them, a couple more times this year. So you just take those games into account. He's definitely going to be worth owning in every league season long. And then I haven't looked at pricing yet, but I know I had Cam Newton in pretty much every lineup this past weekend because he was super cheap. He was under $8,000, and I'm like, he's running the ball. I think in the first 2 games, and I'm not sure what he did this third game. I know he got a rushing touchdown or even 2 rushing touchdowns, but he's had double-digit carries in every game that he's played in so far this year. So definitely Cam is back to being Cam. I think they almost have to because they have no receiving core. And so unless someone emerges in that receiving core, I think Cam is back to being basically a running back, a quarterback. All right, moving on to the Bucs side of the ball. We got Mike Evans, who was out the first week with an injury, played the second week, and I think he had 1 target or 2 targets with no catches. Disappointed a lot of fantasy owners, but actually had a pretty good game this past season. Is Mike Evans, is he going to return to stud status like he was last year?
I think that relies on Jameis. I mean, right now the Bucs are the 5th worst team in offense produced this season, just averaging just 300 yards for this whole campaign. I mean, it's on Jameis. I'm a guy that I'm very much hesitant. I'm very hesitant in starting a rookie QB. If the Bucs are going to pass to anybody, it better be Mike Evans, because in my opinion, that's one of their best players, if not the best player on offense, without a doubt. The guy's an all-star. He's got all-star talent. But when I look at this Bucs team, they need to get it done. If they're going to get it done, maybe you start them against the Panthers, in all honesty. And I'm not saying that the Bucs are going to come anywhere close to winning this game. Honestly, there'll be a lot of points on the board. But, I mean, this is the Panthers team that just gave up 380 yards to the Saints with Luke McCown, who passed for 318 yards. If you're going to think Mike Evans is going to break out, I think this is going to be the game. Because obviously, the Panthers are going to give up passing yards. And if you're the Bucs, I mean, you give it to your star, and that's Mike Evans. So I think this weekend will answer your question here, Jeff.
All right, yeah, I'm with you on that one too. I think if anybody was able to buy low on Mike Evans those first 2 weeks, I think you're definitely loving life right now. I think also what helps his value too is Austin Seferian-Jenkins is still going to be out for a few more weeks. He was Jameis Winston's go-to target in the first 2 games, but now that he's out, I think Mike Evans definitely steps up to the plate. Vincent Jackson, I think he's just getting older. I think he will have his good games here and there. But I think Mike Evans is definitely the number 1 receiver, and I think he bounces back in a big way for the rest of the season. All right, looking at the running backs for Tampa Bay, we had Doug Martin and Charles Sims basically splitting snaps in this past game. I know a lot of people are high on Doug Martin. He had a really big preseason. There was talk of him losing weight and gaining muscle and going back to his rookie season form. But he hasn't really done much, and now he's splitting snaps with his backup. Are we worried about Doug Martin?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. That whole offense is abysmal right now. So if you're a daily fantasy owner, I mean, obviously you're staying away from Doug Martin. But this just isn't the same Doug Martin that we're used to seeing. I don't think that offense has found their identity. I think that's a huge problem. I think Doug Martin still has the talent to be good in this league. He's proven that several times. But right now, with the direction that offense is heading, I honestly think they're trying to focus that offense around Jameis, and it's going to take